You are watching Influence Media, PSI TV, the Netflix of biz brands.
Fake it till you make it. That's what we hear as we emerge as leaders into the marketplace. We don't quite have the success we really want to have yet, but we pretend as if we do. And those who lead us tell us to do that. We make sure our social media feed looks just right, even if it means we take a picture in front of a house we don't own and a car we don't own. We're pretending. We are really having a visibility issue. Either we're not showing up at all, or we're showing up in a fake success that we hope the world will buy, but is not quite true. So on the matter of leader visibility, this is part one in a 5-part series on some of the insecurities that impact leader visibility. This is part one. I hope you'll join me in all 5 parts of the series. Let's talk today about the pretender. So the topic for today is going from imposter to influencer, and this actually will be unpacked over this 5-part series. In today's episode, we're going to look at a story. We're going to see what the Bible says, what academic research says, and eventually, piece by piece, you will get strategies to increase discovery of you and your offer. Trudy Beerman here. You may know that I'm a doctoral candidate at Liberty University, so I always bring that academic research into my work. I'm also the host of PSI TV, and this show is a live show we do every Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I hope you'll join us as we unpack the rest of this series. I do check the comments, so say hello. Let me know you're here. It does energize me. Have you ever felt like an imposter? Are you wearing a mask when you show up to the world? You just want, you're not feeling that well, but you show up with a smile anyways. And sometimes that's not so bad. But some of us have taken it much, much further. We're truly, totally fake. And if someone were to uncover who the real person was, who we really were, they probably wouldn't like us, or so we think. So a lot of us are wanting to be influencers, and in the meantime, we're absolute imposters. But how can we go from imposter to influencer? Assuming you are an imposter, how can you go from imposter to influencer? Because you really can't. So here is a Bible character who was an absolute imposter. In fact, his name Jacob meant the supplanter, and he was ribbed by his brother Esau. Isn't that why his name is Jacob? So if some of you may know the story, but before Jacob was even born, while he was still in his mother's womb, he was a twin with Esau, and Rebekah was told, one of the people shall be mightier than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. That's before he was even born. Later in the Bible, we see Jacob goes to his father and pretends to be Esau so that he will get the blessing that was due to the firstborn. And Esau just came just a few moments before Jacob. So technically he was the firstborn of the twins. So his father's blind. Jacob goes in. Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. Jacob said, I am Esau. You can't get more of an imposter like that. And that's in the Bible, guys. I didn't make it up. The Bible has documented an imposter who became an influencer for us to be able to talk about that right now. Because Jacob fooled his father and took the blessing that was due to Esau, or that his father intended for Esau, let's put it that way, Jacob ran away. Jacob ran away and went to his uncle Laban and stayed there for 20 years. He wasn't supposed to be gone that long. Now remember, when he was on his way there, he had an encounter with God. That's the story of Jacob's ladder. I'm not going over that. But he was given a promise from that time as well. And it was 20 years from the time he ran away to Laban to when he's coming back. And in this story, in Genesis 32, he is now returning home. It says, in great fear and distress, Jacob divided his 2 people into 2 groups. And he thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, attacks one group, then the left may escape. So he has this strategy. So he's scared, in great fear and distress. God said he was to go back home, and he's doing it. He's doing it scared. And he has now this strategy. Guess what? If Esau comes out, because Esau threatened to kill Jacob. Then Jacob prayed, oh God of my father Abram, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. He left his father's home with just the staff, and now he's coming back a wealthy man. Two camps of cattle and lambs and goat and children. He's coming back a wealthy man. But you said, I will surely make you prosper and make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted. Right here, Jacob's name is going to be changed to Israel, and he is going to be the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. So that is influence. Through him, all the nations of the world are being blessed. So he has gone from being an imposter to being an influencer. And in this story, you see that God told him that he was going to make him prosper, and he trusted what God said. And he went back home, but he was scared. He knew he was scared. He did it anyway. He was scared. He did it anyway. Let's keep going. Here's yet another imposter story in the Bible. I won't read it all to you, but here we are, Gideon and his tribe. There is war and everything going on. And at this point, Gideon was actually hiding. And an angel appeared to Gideon and said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. And another translation says, mighty man of valor, mighty man of valor. The Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? So once again, there is a purposeful call on his life to go do something that he had no intention or plan to, kind of like Jacob. Jacob's stepping into this fearful move. And then, Gideon goes, pardon me, my Lord? Gideon replied, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family. He does not feel up to this grand task. He does not feel like any hero of Israel. Okay, so Gideon feels very much like an imposter, being called to do something bigger than he is seeing himself capable of doing. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites. Okay, so we have two stories of leaders who are called to do a great thing. They don't feel up to the task. They're very, very scared. They don't think they can do what they're called to do, but they trust God and they move even though they're scared. I hope you're catching this. Now, peer-reviewed research, academic research on imposter syndrome shares that the imposter syndrome is a phenomenon that affects 22 to 60% of medical students who have studied for years, spent time in a hospital. They put on that white coat. People think they're doctors. People call them doctors, and they feel like imposters. They know what they don't know. They know that they are not totally competent yet. However, they are doctors. And yet this imposter syndrome affects them. So don't feel alone in this, guys. This is actually, if you were to go through all of this research, you'll see competence is one of it. But here it starts to give us some secular strategies for overcoming this. Now, I only took a sample of it. I didn't take the whole research here. But as far as the strategies for overcoming this from a secular perspective, is it says, firstly, we can incorporate self-evaluation. Now, if these medical students were to really think about it, they'll know they really know quite a lot. They have proven their competence through their exams, through the grades that they've gotten. They wouldn't be doctors if they hadn't gotten those grades. So self-evaluation. Then it says, secondly, psychosocial strengthening. Psychosocial strength is your mindset. Okay, how you think about this, the frames that you put this thing in. What are your belief systems? And then another one, it said, is avoid maladaptive thinking. Avoid the negative thoughts that are coming to you. Just avoid them. And if they do show up, ditch them. Okay, now this is giving us some secular strategies, but let's see what the Bible says. So when it comes to from imposter to influencer, sometimes we feel like the imposter, and some people sometimes our observers or our prospects or the audience outside of us may look on and wonder if we're an imposter. Okay, so the thought of being an imposter can come from both sides. It can come from you feeling like an imposter, and it come from the outsiders assuming that you might be. So John 1:11, Jesus, it's speaking about Jesus, he came to his own people and his own people did not receive him. Till this day, the Jews do not, well, not all of them, because clearly the first sets of disciples were Jews, and many of the first believers were Jews. And today we have many Messianic Jews, or Jews that believe in the Messiah as Christ. So, but back then, the Bible is saying he came to his own people, and his own people did not receive him. They did not believe that Jesus was who he said he was. They thought he was an imposter. Matthew 13:57 says, and they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own hometown and in his own household. So as you are growing in your competence, in your influence, in your experience, in your credentials, and you are commanding more and more of a followership, people who have known you all their lives, especially your family members, those closest to you, be like, who does she think she is? You know, isn't she the girl that we grew up with, that she was just one of us back in high school? So a lot of times you will find that you will make it in another strange environment. And then once you've been a big shot over there, then your people will now want to receive you as that. So sometimes the imposter thoughts can come from you projecting out, or from the outsiders assuming that you might be. So look at it from both angles. Matthew 7:16, verse 20 says, you will recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruit. So this is probably in this little few 4 verses kind of has the antidote, the answer, everything that I believe will move someone from imposter to influencer, whether you think you're an imposter and you are, faking it till you make it, or others assume you might be. So there are many stories in the Bible, like the wheat and its tares, lookalikes until it's time for the harvest. Tares will never produce wheat, but as they're growing up, they both look like the same grass. But when it comes time for harvest, wheat will have the fruit, tares will not. So while you are growing in your competence, in your experience, in your followers, coming to and all of that, it's a process. And ultimately, you're going to show up for what you really, really are. If you're a diseased tree, bad fruit's going to show up. If you're a healthy tree, good fruit's going to show up. But you can't show up as figs if you are a thistle. So you're truly going to be showing up what you really are. If you're an apple tree, it's going to bear apples if it bears anything at all. And I really believe that this verse, and one of these days I'll unpack it more for you, but just because this is a 5-part series, I just want to introduce a concept to you that for you to show up authentically as you are, you have to be the thing that you're trying to show up to be, because ultimately you will be shown to be the fake that you are. You really will. Okay. And if you really are the thing, but you are an unhealthy version of it, then you need to try and get healthy. So, but that's a conversation for another day. So in a nutshell, to go from imposter to influencer, you want to tap into what God says about you. Now, you can go back to that secular list from that research, from the peer-reviewed research I shared earlier, where it talked about self-evaluation and avoiding the negative thoughts and the psychosocial stuff. Yeah, but as a Christ follower, and if you are a Christ follower, then I'm going to invite you to tap into what God says about you, just like what God said about Jacob and what God said about Gideon. Neither really believed it, and it took them a while to step into it, but what God says about you is who and what you really are. So you really want to embrace that true identity. Don't try to pass yourself off as a grape tree if you're not a grape tree. It will ultimately show itself to be the fake that you are. But embrace your true identity. And if you tap into what God says about you, that's going to be a very, very powerful place. Now, I'm going to encourage you to document your social proof. Going back to the story of Jacob, remember he says he left with a stick and he's coming back with these groups of people, herd and everything. There are mile markers. There are things that that show, there are measures, proof of growth. Things like, for example, from time to time, I document and share with my audience. Like I got a thing from Facebook the other day that I had gained 1,900 plus followers in 90 days. Facebook shared that with me. I screenshot it and put it up there. You can see the change in my YouTube over time and things like that. The change in my I have 30,000 followers on Facebook. I can't make that up. The numbers are right there. So sometimes, remember in the research, it said self-evaluation. If you go back and really look at all that you have accomplished, all of the measures of change over time, you will have something to really say, I really have done this. I'm not a fake. My son, when he was growing up, used to say, practice like it's real. Practice like it's real rather than fake it till you make it. His version was practice like it's real. Then you want to hold fast to the promises of God. Just like how Jacob moved in and said, I'm scared, Lord, but you said, and he stepped in. He knew he was going to face Esau. He knew Esau wanted to kill him. He was going anyways. Same with Gideon. Scared, but doing it anyways. Hold fast to those promises of God and step into it. Scared or not, step anyways. Step into that calling, even if it means you do it afraid. And you are more than you think you are. Because Gideon was like, excuse me, mighty man of valor, me? Okay. And then it was crazy because Jacob's name was Supplanter. That's what his name was. And God changed his name to Israel because he really was more. He was going to be the father of the nations and all of that. And his name needed to be changed, but it was more of a reflection of who he really was. And those you are called to serve need you to show up in that space of service. You know, the Bible says if we don't do it, the rocks are going to cry out. One way or the other, God's will is going to be done. But he invites us to participate in that. Gideon, his family, there was war going on, and he was going to be the mighty man of valor to save all of Israel at the time, the least of the tribes and the least of the family in the tribe. So you might not think you are much, but when God has called you to do something, just step into it, and you can do more than you think you are. And those who you are called to serve really need you to show up. They need you to show up. So right now you might be a big fish in a small pond, or you should work to be the big fish in the small pond. But once you've grown to be influential among your peers, you need to jump ponds and grow again. So we're called to take what we have and multiply it. So whatever your area of influence, share it. The more people you serve, the more influence you will have. So this was part 1 in the 5-part series. Trudy Beerman here. It would be my pleasure to contribute to your going from unknown to discover, to giving you that brand elevation advantage. If this was of value to you, like, comment, share so that someone else can be blessed by this information. And Trudy Beerman here. I am super simple to find, and I do